Dolph Ziggler now. He's not even Intercontinental Champion. The same thing about Daniel Bryan. 2 major injuries in less than 1 year. That's amazing. You know, how WWE overworks these talents and never rewards them. If you're going to overwork somebody, at least reward them and stop putting the same 3 or 4 individuals on top all the time. Example, Seth Rollins. I mean, the only accolade apart from being WWE Champion for Seth Rollins was he was a co-holder of the tag team titles, and he was the leader of the Shield for both NXT and the WWE when they made their debut from NXT to Survivor Series in 2012, interfering in that triple threat match with Cena, Punk, and Ryback. They had issues with Ryback. They had issues with The Rock. They definitely cemented themselves, and WWE cemented their legacies with victories over the Brothers of Destruction and one half of Team Hell No, Daniel Bryan, Kane, Undertaker, and Daniel Bryan losing one to the Shield, which was probably the biggest win the Shield had in their 3 respective careers as a team. And from there, they separate and they go on to have individual success as, you know, individual wrestlers, as singles competitors in WWE. But the thing is, even though they had individual success with Reigns winning the Royal Rumble and Dean Ambrose wanting to be Intercontinental Champion, which never did happen, the issue I have with Seth Rollins being on top, there are a number of issues, perhaps one of the biggest being that only Seth Rollins himself, apart from Reigns winning the Royal Rumble and getting 1 WrestleMania main event under his belt in the victory over the Brothers of Destruction, as the Shield took on the Brothers of Destruction in one half of Team Hell No, is the fact that it seems like Seth Rollins is the one who was always being given the benefit of the doubt and all the accolades. Nobody else from the Shield has been benefiting. Dean Ambrose wanted to be Intercontinental Champion. He wanted to get his name on the wall of WWE headquarters, and that never happened. It happened for Daniel Bryan because they had to give something to Daniel Bryan because they built up his return. They had so much momentum on the shoulders of Daniel Bryan going into WrestleMania. And what happened for Daniel Bryan was in a proverbial corner, a dark position which seemingly there was no way out of. So to make him happy, they had to give him the Intercontinental title. And within weeks of winning it, Daniel Bryan loses it with 1 or 2 title defenses. I don't know what it is with Daniel Bryan getting 1 or 2 title defenses in, 1 title defense less than Brock Lesnar, 1 or 2 title defenses less than Brock Lesnar, and Daniel Bryan is out through the proverbial door, and we're back to Seth Rollins. We are going around in circles in WWE, and there is no creativity. That's another big issue because Seth Rollins is always on top. There is no creativity. I mean, out of everybody you could have had representing Seth Rollins as security, you had Jamie Noble and Joey Mercury. Eminem and Jamie Noble, a former Cruiserweight champion, who are so 2005. What a difference 10 years makes, and I think they are the most irrelevant people you could have representing Seth Rollins. You have the Ascension there, and the Ascension have nothing going for them. We see the Ascension on SmackDown week in and week out. They aren't even tag team champions. They are just LOD knockoffs. And the legendary Road Warrior Hawk has to be turning over in his grave out of disgust for what they are doing to the legacy of the Legion of Doom. The Legion of Doom did so much, won every major tag team championship from every major promotion, including Japan, only to be insulted by the Ascension. At least give the Ascension something productive to do if you're going to insult the Legion of Doom. Have them be the security for Seth Rollins. Do something with your new talent initiative. What are you doing with teams like the Lucha Dragons and Los Matadores? You just have them there for the sake of having a tag team division? I mean, really, the biggest teams you pushed in the tag team division are the Usos, Tyson Kidd and Cesaro, who got a tag team title reign. At least that's something beneficial for those guys who just recently lost the titles, which really nothing was made of during the reign as tag team champions. And you have a team like the Shield, who were seemingly dominating the tag team division forever, only because there was no team in a position to knock them out of the position they were in as champions. So in the end, you only had probably about 3 or 4 teams in the last 3 or 4 years to really make up your tag team division, which is absolutely ridiculous because tag team wrestling is a far cry from what it was back in the 1980s. I mean, back in the 1980s, if you rewind yourself back to there, you had the Hurt Foundation, you had the Killer Bees, you had Money Incorporated, you had Demolition, the Natural Disasters. You had so many great tag teams, and now all you have is a tag team division, which is a far cry from what it used to be. The same thing about the women's division. Although it's always evolving, the women's division in comparison to what it was back in 94, 95, definitely is a far cry from what it is now, because the women's division back in 94, 95 was far more impressive than what you have now. You have a Divas division. You don't even have a women's division. Where women's wrestling is coming from are companies like TNA and Ring of Honor who are never given the benefit of the doubt. And NXT's women's division, when the Divas division doesn't pan out the way you want it to. So really, we don't have much to look forward to with professional wrestling, and it's because of a number of reasons. One of those reasons is Triple H and Stephanie, the Authority, and everybody in affiliation with the Authority, and Seth Rollins representing himself as Money in the Bank and representing us now as WWE World Heavyweight Champion to make matters worse for us as wrestling fans who are subjected out of this proverbial pain every single week. And I say this directly out of WWE Creative when I take a look at everything that's happened for the better part of the last, I'd say, 6 months, near the end of 2014 up until now. I say this out of desperation. Stop the pain when it comes to people like Seth Rollins always being put over as the proverbial man, because what I have said about Seth Rollins are only legit and accurate statements. One of the things that I've said about Seth Rollins that is accurate and legit, I don't know about anything else I've said about Seth Rollins, but one of the more accurate assumptions and statements I had made about Seth Rollins over this microphone on this show is that Seth Rollins is the future only in his own mind. He's the future in one place, and that's his mind. And until you kill that idea, until you put some doubt in the mind of Seth Rollins, he is always going to believe that. Because I believe that Triple H, here's my theory on Seth Rollins and people of his category always being on top. This is my theory. Triple H has convinced people like Seth Rollins and people like him in that same category that they actually have a future in this business, and they are what is best for the professional wrestling business, when in all actual fact, from a political standpoint, they are far from what Triple H and Stephanie have convinced them to be. I don't even think Triple H believes that someone like Seth Rollins is the future of the WWE, and I think that it's only now we're seeing that doubt shine through the chrome dome of Triple H now that he has his hair cut down. We can see the doubt shining through his proverbial chrome dome now. And I think that that doubt is one of the best things that's happened, because now we actually have a chance of Seth Rollins being knocked out of the position that he's in, and we don't have to put up with 6 or 7 months with him being champion. Although he's going to pull a CM Punk and be champion even longer than what Punk was. Another thing too, who out there thinks that Seth Rollins is a CM Punk knockoff and a replacement for CM Punk? Because it's one of the terminologies I've been throwing your way about Seth Rollins. He resembles CM Punk so much, it is really frightening to actually have to admit to. He said, as CM Punk did when he won the title for the first or second time, that he was going to be champion for a very long time. And Seth Rollins believes he's going to be champion for a very long time. But you have to wonder, do creative feel the same way about Seth Rollins as he does about his future? Yes, Seth Rollins thinks he's on top of the world. He's making the money. He's in the main events. He's on tour. He's on live programming. He's on pay-per-views and the main events all the time. Life is good for Seth Rollins, but how long will he be champion? Will he get that 435-day reign in, beating CM Punk's reign out by one day? Will he be the greatest WWE World Heavyweight Champion up to this point since the inception of the championship back in December of 2014? I don't know. I still need to be proven that Seth Rollins, I need to be convinced that Seth Rollins is as good as what he says he is, because right now Seth Rollins is not entertaining us. From an entertaining standpoint, people like Daniel Bryan and Damian Sandow are the ones entertaining us. People like Sting, who show up once every 6 months, are the ones entertaining us. And this is why I think that matches like Sting versus Seth Rollins are matches that need to happen. Although Sting is only there once every 6 months and probably will only defend the title up to 3 times maximum, it would do a great deal of justice to have Sting be champion, because it's the one thing he's never done in his wrestling career. WCW and TNA world titles, where's that 1 or 2 WWE championships? It would definitely elevate the stock of Seth Rollins to put him in a match against Sting, but they're putting it off and putting it off and putting it off because Sting doesn't want to have it happen. Probably Sting wants to win the title from someone on the level of Triple H or Kane. Maybe that's the circumstance. Maybe Sting doesn't want to face Seth Rollins. Maybe the company are trying to convince him, and that's why we're putting off these matches with Rollins and Lesnar or Rollins and Sting. We need to get something creatively going for Seth Rollins. More importantly, you need to convince me that Seth Rollins is the man that he is trying to convince us all that he is, because I believe that nobody believes that Seth Rollins is as good as what he says he is. I know I don't believe he's as good as what he says he is, and until I am proven wrong about Seth Rollins, until I can come on this show and say that Seth Rollins is a 5-time champion, a 3 or 4-time tag team champion, a 5-time Intercontinental champion, until he gets to the level of a Shawn Michaels, like a Daniel Bryan is desperately trying to do. They are so trying to recreate a Shawn Michaels out of Daniel Bryan. They tried it with Rob Van Dam in the early thousands. They failed at that. They're failing with Daniel Bryan. Until it gets to a level of a Shawn Michaels, I will never believe that Seth Rollins is the future of this company, and I'll believe that he's the future of professional wrestling in only one place, and that is his mind. And who can change how Seth Rollins thinks in his mind? That hamster is going to be running around in that cycle, in that ball, for forever in Seth Rollins' mind. I'd love to get a glimpse into the mind of Seth Rollins, because he has been convinced so much bullshit over the last 6 months. It is absolutely ridiculous. We all know that briefcase belongs to Randy Orton, but I mean, we're wrestling fans and we know how it works politically. WWE never listens to its fans, because I believe, and WWE knows this for a fact, if they listened to their fans more, if they gave the power of general managers every 2 weeks to wrestling fans for live editions of Monday Night Raw super shows featuring Raw and SmackDown superstars and the stars of NXT, the ratings would blow up. The ratings would shoot through the roof. People would have more of a reason to talk about wrestling more positively than they do negatively. And the only reason why, I mean, let's face facts, if fans were general managers, the show would be better off. We'd have people like Sting and Undertaker on there all the time. We'd have more of a creative direction. But the reason why we have so much negativity towards the wrestling business is because there's nothing positive to talk about, and the fans are not being listened to. And I say this about wrestling fans: they are some of the smartest people when it comes to what happens behind that proverbial closed door, which nobody has access to seeing what goes on behind. We don't have access to these board meetings. We don't see what happens politically, because people like Triple H always run us down for having no clue with politics when it comes to professional wrestling. But here's the thing, we know more about politics with professional wrestling than we're ever giving credit for, and wrestling fans are some of the smartest people in this business, and that's why we're always overshadowed by the upper executives in WWE, the John Laurinaitis, the Vince McMahons, the Linda McMahons, the Stephanie McMahons, the Triple H's. That's why everybody who was a shearer in that company